There is currently no clear end in sight with the negotiations between the San Francisco 49ers and Brock Purdy. We know they are in active negotiations. Offers are being presented back and forth, but it doesn't appear they are close in negotiations, at least from what we've gathered from across the league in regards to reports that have come out. So not only that, we now have a situation where you have Chris Sims saying that the San Francisco 49ers should look into trading Brock Purdy and even go not just don't pay Brock, get rid of him, trade him to a team. And the logic is interesting, but I'm going to let you take a listen to what he has to say, and then I'm going to pick it apart right after this. So go ahead, take a listen to Chris Sims making the case of why the San Francisco 49ers should consider trading Brock Purdy.
And the thing that I think you and I have been saying, we're going to continue to say, is that the league, nobody looks at Brock Purdy and thinks he's a top 10 quarterback in football. Nobody. Yeah. With Shanahan as his OC and the 49er All-Star team around the last few years, yeah, he can look pretty damn good. He can look top 10-ish. But we just saw last year when the 49er All-Star team fell apart and got injured, 6-11, and we're talking about we're going to pay over $50 million a year, and that's what it seems like. So that's just, I think, the 49ers are in a tough spot in their organization. They do have a quarterback. He is their franchise guy, but I don't think he's worth being paid one of the top 10 quarterbacks in football. But they got a guy, and they believe in him. So I don't know what to say, and I'm not mad at them for that either, but it's a tough situation. And, yeah, I would not want to see them pay more than $45 million a year either if I was running the team or had said say in it.
So when you listen to Chris, and him and Florio have been on this for a long time. I even spoke to Florio at the Super Bowl. He said Brock should get paid like $35 million. They've now bumped it up to 45. And to keep in mind, that is Kirk Cousins money. Kirk Cousins money, 36 years old, coming off a torn Achilles. That's basically what they're saying. They think Brock Purdy is at that level. Because as we know, the market is dictated by everyone else's salaries, and then you take the resume and you slot it. That's how it works. You could believe that Brock Purdy should only get paid 35 to 45. That's just not how the market works. And so that's why that's not what Brock Purdy is going to be paid. Remember that report came out where it was the 49ers starting offer was 45. And then you had guys like Palacero and Rossini come out and say, if the starting offer was 45, that would be disrespectful, right? Because they understand the market. They understand how that works, and they understand what that represents. So regardless of that whole situation, Chris Sims is basically saying the league doesn't view Brock Purdy as a top 10 quarterback, apparently. And as a result of that, the 49ers shouldn't pay Brock, and they should trade him to teams who don't think he's a top 10 quarterback to then pay him like a top 10 quarterback. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. Keep in mind, if the San Francisco 49ers were to trade Brock Purdy, they wouldn't even get the best value for him because the team would have to give him a huge contract. So because of the huge contract, I don't even know what the compensation would look like. Would it be a second round draft pick? Would they get a first for Brock? I don't know. Maybe if Brock was under contract still, even though he is heading into the final year of his rookie deal, he is not playing on that deal. I don't know how many times I have to say it out loud for people to rationalize and understand that Brock Purdy will not be playing on the last year of his rookie deal under any circumstances. It will not happen. So you have to think of it as he will have to get paid. And so what does that look like? What does the trade compensation look like? What teams would trade for Brock? There really aren't that many teams who need a quarterback. Potentially the Saints, the Giants, the Titans are going to be taking Cam Ward. You have the Pittsburgh Steelers. So there's really not that many more. And those guys, all those teams that I mentioned, could likely draft a quarterback. So if you don't view Brock Purdy as a top 10 quarterback and you believe that his skill set doesn't translate into being what he deserves to be paid, why would those teams trade for him when they could just draft someone? They could draft a Jackson Dart. They could take a Shadeur Sanders. They could go Kyle McCord. They can go Will Howard. Why would they take Brock? What's the point? So I think the whole conversation, I don't love it. I don't love that it's coming from Chris Sims because whether you like it or not, he has ties to Kyle. And you can perceive that in any which way that you want. Could this be a form of conditioning, of getting people to talk about the potential of trading Brock, to wrap their heads around that maybe that could be an outcome? Now, I'm not saying it is, but hey, we know how psychological conditioning works. Teams use it all the time, and leak things to media to kind of put it out there, and then it happens. We've seen it happen with the 49ers before. I'm not going to go into detail and specifically of what that was, but we've seen it multiple times. So the point being is, why are we having this conversation the week of the draft? Is it to get more clicks? Is it to get more views? Is it substantiated in any sense like of the imagination? Could the 49ers actually try to trade Brock Purdy? Because we've heard reports all throughout this offseason. Oh, no teams want to trade for Brock. What does that mean? Remember, Diana Rossini came out and said, like, definitively, like, well, no team wants to trade for Brock. So does that mean he's a top 10 quarterback? It almost feels like they're jumping on that coattails of that particular report, that at least the way it came across. So again, I think I look at the offseason sometimes, especially surrounding the San Francisco 49ers, how they go about their negotiation process. And, it just makes me want to fast forward. Can we just get to the season? Can we just get beyond this and quit doing all the back and forth and this and what about that? Well, we should trade him. This, like, it's every year. It's every year. So I'm at a point where I don't really want to talk about this anymore, because it's like it is what it is situation. If the 49ers are bold enough to believe, and again, this is hypothetically speaking, that if they were willing to trade Brock, if they're bold enough to believe that they can be just as competitive with Mac Jones as Brock Purdy, then I will definitely have lost faith in this organization's decision making. Um, and I just think that would that would be um, that would be crazy, man. It really, really would. So I hope it doesn't come to that. I hope that these conversations that we are talking about are purely hypothetical, purely people looking for engagement, and there's no backing to this, and that the basically, we understand that the negotiations are a difficult process, and there's going to be gaps, and those gaps need to close, and that doesn't necessarily lend itself to be a fast situation. But again, the fact that we're in draft week. Draft week is always the final deadline, at least in my opinion, for most major trades. If a trade is going to happen, especially a big time one, it's probably going to happen near, before, or during the draft. So that's why we always kind of put like a dotted line as a deadline for players to be potentially getting traded. So obviously, if Kittle and Brock are on this team after the draft, I'd feel pretty confident that the 49ers would be locked in with those guys and going to be paying them. But of course, there's always a variable outcome that you never know. That a player who is in the middle of a negotiation heading into this period of time where a lot of calls are being made, a lot of conversations are being had about trades. Is this guy available? You want this pick? And that's where things can materialize that you didn't expect. So I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying the timing of this is interesting, and I think it's worth monitoring, because from everything that we're hearing, it doesn't sound like the 49ers and Brock Purdy's camp are particularly close. So we'll continue to see what that ultimately means and how that plays out. But I am curious. Should the San Francisco 49ers consider trading Brock Purdy according to what you believe, the fan, the person? I know a ton of fans don't want to pay Brock Purdy. So would you prefer to trade him and ride into this next season with Mac Jones? If the answer is yes, explain why in the comments below. And as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more updates.